Hi, Jonathan Garber, the master of disaster here from Connections for Business, and I'm back with our good friend Steve Breitbart from Cypress Insurance. Steve, thanks for being on the Master of Disaster.
Thanks, John.
Now, Steve, you and I were talking recently, and you know, most of our clients are on the cloud, and we have best practices in place, but there's something new. You know, it's 2013, there's new things with insurance. There's something called digital assets. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, your typical property insurance policy for businesses is meant to cover their assets, their physical assets, like the desks and chairs and walls, and will extend to the computers, but the problem out there is that there's an exclusion in the policy for digital assets, anything digital.
All the data.
All the data.
And that's what we consider the most valuable part of the network.
Absolutely. I mean, can you really put a value on what the worth of somebody's digital assets are? I mean, if they lose all of their data.
We've heard some horror stories. Doesn't happen to our clients, but it happens out there, and people come to us with a sad story. Their backup wasn't working. They're looking at the only way for them to estimate is what it would take to rekey data, and that's typically only a week or two's worth of data that they could recover.
Well, that's not good.
No, so
put most people out of business.
Exactly. So that's one reason. Why else would a company worry about this?
Well, the biggest issue is that, you know, when you look at your typical disaster that happens to a business,
right?
It involves, you know, your hurricane, your flood,
broken
fire,
pipe, right?
And obviously, you can have direct damage to the computers with that.
They're very sensitive.
But what happens if you have an employee that decides that he wants to hold the company hostage, or they're upset about what's going on at the business and they delete all the business,
or they just
delete all data rather,
or they just make a mistake, human error, right?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've pushed the delete button and didn't need to delete
the
whole thing, not just that one.
Just a whole folder. So that happens all the time. So, and does a policy like this extend to the cloud? Because that's where most of my clients are.
Well, yeah, we have these new digital asset policies now. They're relatively new, and if the company's done the right things, when I say the right things, they've set up the firewalls and done the backups.
Best practices.
It'll cover their digital assets wherever they exist. So it could be on the cloud, it could be in their office, but if the digital asset disappears for some, you know, because of a disaster or somebody deletes it, the insurance company, what they basically do is provide a pot of money for a business to take care of the loss of the digital assets. Rather than value the asset, they're going to say, okay, here's a limit like $500,000, and let's try and get the asset back.
Right, we're in a hole. How do we dig out of the hole?
Right. So you guys have all sorts of companies that you utilize to
sometimes we have to send a drive out to recovery. It's a couple $1,000s. It's money well spent.
Sure.
Right. So digital assets would help with that.
Yeah. From the insurance company standpoint, you know, we want to try and do whatever we can do to recover the assets.
Sure. So the key is now when they're looking at underwriting this, they're also looking for risk mitigation, like any other actuarial. So if they were to look at, let's say, the kind of best practices that we typically put in place, you're familiar with them. We always have an enterprise class firewall and Active Directory security and multiple layers of backup and always an out-of-office replication. That's standard. If we're on the cloud, we have multiple layers of backup and replication. Are those kind of things that an insurance company would look at as risk mitigation for underwriting the policy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a long list of questions, and you know, some clients may not even qualify if they're not doing backups or they don't have a secure network. The insurance company is going to be reluctant to write the account.
And they're not a client of ours. That goes without saying. So clearly, we're in the digital age now. Information is money. Right? Information is currency in the digital age. Someone has to look at this. If they want to know more information to see if they can get this coverage, what do they do next?
Well, you know, anybody should sit down with their insurance agent and have a heart-to-heart with the insurance agent and say, okay, let's talk about my digital assets because it's a very important part of our business. How are we going to insure that? What do we need to do to get coverage for that? Because
this is a fairly new product, so not every insurance agent has had a chance yet to talk to their clients. Clients need to ask about this because, again, we say computers are cheap, data's expensive. And so you could always buy another computer, but I can't always get that data back if we don't have the protocols in place and, of course, the coverage to pay for it. So good time to have an insurance review with your agent about everything that's changed in your business, including digital assets. Steve, thank you so much. Valuable information, terrific stuff. And you've watched The Master of Disaster. You ready to close the show with the Godzilla?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're going to do it on 3? 1, 2, 3. What would you do if Godzilla stepped on your business? Well, I hope you have digital asset protection. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.